Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm quite excited to be here, not just because it's a beautiful city with a lot of interesting history and character, but this really marks a pinnacle in my travels so far. The last 3 months I've been traveling through states in my RV where I'd been before. I'd even been to some of the specific locations within those states that I'd filmed. So this is really coming into a whole new element that I've never seen before, where I've never been, and the biggest pinnacle for me, I'm quite excited. I'm going to be crossing the Mississippi River. This is the gateway to the east for me. And to have Rhea Rada, my RV, I've done so much work on her. Gotten her fixed up with solar, maintenance on the engine, on the coach, renovations inside, and to have brought her all the way up to a whole new point. Passing over the Mississippi River is going to be a really big deal for me. Plus, I'm super excited to be seeing new ecologies that I'm not used to. Before, I knew a lot of the tree species, even some of the plant species, and I was very familiar with a lot of the terrain just from living in parts of that country, and working with certain ecologies there, and to come into totally deciduous forests, no pine trees, trees I don't know what they are, which is very exciting. I couldn't be more excited to make this crossing over the Mississippi into unknown territory. We're down in Mill City, the Mill City part of town, and you can see there's a bunch of old mills. Gold medal flour, and across the way you have Pillsbury flour. So this was where all the mills were that processed the grain that was in the local areas into flour. But in 1930, a lot of the mill production work shifted from Minneapolis over to Buffalo, New York City, and Chicago. Minneapolis, home of the Minnesota Vikings. The falls here in Minnehaha Park are actually natural falls, as are several of the lakes in the area. But what the city did was they built channels to connect all of those waterways, and then they connected it out to the Mississippi River. And with all that being connected, the water level decreased, and so at one point they were pumping 1 billion gallons of water from the Mississippi River back into the waterway to raise those water levels. But now it's mostly fed with snowmelt and rainfall. All dollied up, just gonna check my straps. Once you get them going and then you move a few feet, they tend to need another crank on them. It's fall here. I'm totally enjoying it in Minnesota. The air is really crisp. Leaves are beginning to fall and turn yellow. And I've really enjoyed Minnesota a lot. And we're headed on to Wisconsin. Gonna try a bunch of cheese.
What do you think, Tracy? What are we doing?
Wow, so I had my first cheese experience, Wisconsin cheese experience. It was very exciting to try some local cheeses and cheese curds. I'd also never had those. I've always liked cheese. I like good cheese, and the cheeses there were, you could tell they were slightly one notch up from cheese maybe you get in the grocery store. Anyway, it was very good and exciting to try the local food. And I have to say, I really, really like the Midwest so far. I really liked Minnesota, and I really like Wisconsin. And a lot of the towns, they're like a manageable size. Madison, where we're at right now, has 2 Costco's, has a Trader Joe's, and pretty much any other kind of regular resource you would want in a in a long-term living situation. Plus it has lots of lakes and outdoor areas for recreation. The park we're staying at is only about 6 minutes outside of town, and there's cornfields out there. There are new housing developments with just about 5 houses so far, and I was just so surprised, like, why is everybody not here? There's such a great place. You know, you can live out in the country but be, you know, 10 minutes from a pretty big city with an airport, and only a few hours from an even bigger city. And then I was like, okay, well, you know, everybody talks about the winters in the Midwest, and I looked that information up just on Google, kind of a quick search, and I saw you can have freezing from October through April. Freezing nights. What is that, 7 months? That's over half the year you've got freezing nights. And in January, the average snowfall is like 3 feet or more. So, and then November to April or maybe March, there's definitely snow on the ground. So I can see why a lot of people wouldn't come here, but it's interesting to compare that to the Phoenix area or even Tucson. I've lived in both those towns for a number of years. And in Arizona, you can go out in the wintertime, of course, that's when everybody goes there, but in the summertime, you know, you can't go outside. You have about 4 to 6 months, you know, 3 if you're quite tolerable of the heat, 4 to 6 months in the summertime where you really can't go outside. So it's kind of interesting to compare some of these colder parts, being the winters where you can't go out for several months, to Arizona where you can't go out for several months in the summertime.
So I'm a very particular salad eater, and my favorite cheese on salad is Gruyere. And out of the huge selection of cheese that they have at this store, they have no Gruyere. A lot of cheddar, a lot of Gouda, a lot of farmer's cheese, cheese curds, but quite surprised to not be able to find Gruyere. Well, it's time to start making my way down south before it gets too cold. However, this year, 2017, the Midwest seems to have had a very late summer because it's been quite enjoyable, really pleasant temperatures. And heading south, I want to make sure to check out the fall colors in the Smoky Mountains, or at least somewhere around there. That is on my bucket list. And I am so glad that I've been able to spend some time in the Midwest. I'm definitely going to be back. I really like it. It's actually a lot like Oregon, but not that many pine trees like Oregon. It's all pine trees pretty much. And because probably of the time of year that I've been here, the weather's actually been really nice. And also, comparing to Oregon, it doesn't rain as much. So Oregon, I think, is like the US's only temperate rainforest. So they get a lot of rain there. Anyway, it's been super beautiful. It's time to hit the road. Thank you so much for watching.